I'm going to tell you about the Delamont Blanc de Blanc. So this is non-vintage champagne, but so firstly, 2020 is a really special year for Champagne Delamont. It is their 260th anniversary, so very old. So they are a champagne house located in Menil-sur-Oger, which is one of the top Grand Cru villages in Champagne. And Delamont is known for being the sister house of Champagne Salon, which is one of the most kind of prestigious champagnes in the world. So Delamont's ethos is really based around the concept that a great champagne is first and foremost a great wine. So quality is of great importance for them, really from detail right from the vineyard all the way to the cellar. They remain really quite a discreet and understated champagne house, but it's really been the smart decision or smart choice of a champagne for those in the know for many years. Just 10 people work at Delamont, and they cover every aspect of the business. They're a very tight-knit team. You could say they were almost kind of family-like in their kind of working together. Just 830 cases are made each year, so not very many at all. And being a Blanc de Blanc, this is 100% Chardonnay. So this allows it to be lovely and creamy and have quite a kind of rich texture to it. So the grapes of this are hand-picked, and the remoage is also done by hand. So this is when the bottles are turned to get the sediment in the wine down into the neck of the bottle. So normally this is done nowadays in massive kind of wire crates. So it's really lovely that this is still done by hand, kind of just adds to the quality of it. It's aged for 4 to 5 years on its lees before it's disgorged. Legally, it only has to be aged for 15 months. So this is really a lot longer than that, which really kind of adds to its quality and unique flavour. So tasting, I don't know if anyone's tasting along, but so this has got a lovely mineral freshness. So this comes from the chalky soils in Champagne, and it also gives it a kind of lovely, rich and delicate flavour. So this, on the nose, we've kind of got rose petals, a hint of ginger, and then on the palate, I'll just say, it's got lovely orchard fruit, brioche, kind of toasted notes, and a very nice delicate mousse, not too overpowering, but just kind of perfect, making it perfect to drink on its own. I mean, food-wise, I would happily drink this on its own, but it's great with nibbles, smoked salmon. If you're really pushing the boat out for Christmas, you know, oysters or caviar, which would be very nice. But I think this would also work really well with turkey, because it's a Blanc de Blanc, and the Chardonnay just gives it a lovely richness, which I think kind of means that it would stand up to something like turkey. But it makes me feel really Christmassy. I don't know about you, Will, but it is actually lucky to have it on Christmas Day with my family. And I have to say that my 101-year-old grandmother has a small glass of it. I think she would really like to have more, but she's not allowed because that would cause problems for us all. But it's kind of loved by everyone of all ages. So yeah, really delicious and nice and festive. Looks good, nice fancy gold. Looks good.
Yeah, I've certainly had that on Christmas Day with my family before.
Yeah, great.
Definitely a goodie. The next wine that we're going to be showing you is also 100% Chardonnay. It's this one here, if you can see the label. It's a very own new bottling of an own label Chardonnay, which is like a special one we're doing just for Christmas and probably just into the new year, from Domaine Francois Carillon, who is an amazing wine producer based in Puligny, Montrachet. He's actually the first winemaker I met when I was at Corny & Barrow. I had to take him around London, and I didn't speak a word of French, and he speaks very little English. So as like a 21-year-old, it was quite difficult, but he was lovely. So it was we were mincing around the shops of London trying to sell his wines. Anyway, Yeah, as I said, this is a special cuvee that we're basically doing, which is totally unique for us. It's probably a step above the other own labels that we do. And now to the estate. So Francois is based in Puligny. His family have been making wine there since the 1600s. So they've got loads and loads and loads of heritage in producing wine. His father used to make wine under Domaine Carillon, but in France, they've got these really complicated like inheritance laws. So basically, when he decided to retire, he had to split up the family vineyards between him and his brother. Francois was more of a purist, as you'd say, and he would work in the vineyards for his father beforehand. So he takes that style with him to his domaine now, which is called Domaine Francois Carillon. Everything he does is based in the vineyard. So he leaves it in the cellar to very minimum sort of intervention, which produces a really pure, fresh, lighter wine. And he wouldn't use any herbs or pesticides. Everything, even plows his fields with horse. He's really, really, minimalistic, and his attention to detail is obscene. And it's always the first tasting we do whenever we go down to Burgundy as well to do en primeur tastings or collect wines to take up back to the offices. We will always go to Francois first because he's always up there 8 in the morning in his cellar. We'll turn up there, our toothpaste will sort of just be getting out of our mouths, and we'll be going off and tasting his sort of 10 or so different wines that he that we buy off him. This is a Bourgogne Chardonnay, so it's sort of an entry level for the region, but any top Burgundy estate entry level really is much more special than your standard Bourgogne Blanc. It comes from mainly vineyards based in Puligny, Montrachet. 10% or so come from Mercury, which is further north, which is sort of just outside the famous sort of Burgundy strip. So you're actually getting pretty much a Puligny Montrachet wine, but for a sort of Bourgogne Blanc price, which is in Burgundy terms a huge price difference, which makes it even more attractive for people. It's about 5 hectares of land, all Chardonnay, because that's pretty much what all the white wine is there. And he's pretty much no intervention with it, pretty much totally organic. It doesn't use any herbicides or pesticides, which when you taste the wine, if any of you got it in front of you, you'll get a really clean, fresh feel to it immediately. So if any of you got it in front of you, now would be a good time to taste. White Burgundy generally, in a good vintage of it, should be incredibly clean and crisp, very fresh, should cut through pretty much anything because of the location of Puligny as well and the style of the region. It's always got this really clean cut, fresh background to it, which makes it awesome as an aperitif with lots of different foods. At Christmas, let's say if you're having turkey or goose especially, I think this would go really, really well with. It matches with all of that stuff excellently. On the palate, you've got a lot of mineral intensity at first. It's quite young, so it's 2018, so you're going to get that immediately. Lots of acidity. Another reason why it's so good, if you're having a party or with people, because it's kind of leaves you wanting more and more sips. Importantly, the vines are 34 to 60 years old, so you kind of get a lot more intensity packed in the wine when you've got older vines as well. The finish is really, really lovely, still very acidic. I think it would just be a really special wine basically to have on Christmas Day. We've only got as well 2,800 bottles of it, so it's kind of a special limited edition cuvee. If you got it in front of you, you'll see like this really fancy, lovely, tasty note that we got on the side as well. It's a different label to our usual other ones too, so when it's out, it's gone. And at £23.50, it's sort of very, very good price for white Burgundy in general. So yeah, feel free to type in any questions about it, but on to you, Pippa, with the next one.
Right. Red, yes, so delicious, and I have ordered some of that Cornier Barry white Burgundy, and I am planning to drink it on Christmas Day. But yes, so red, Barry de Blanc. So I don't know if anyone is tasting along. Goodness, I don't know if you can actually see this, but here it is. So Barry de Blanc, 2016 vintage. So this is $23.95 a bottle, and this is really top value Saint-Emilion. So this is from Etablissement Moex, and Barry de Blanc, or Barry White, as it is very affectionately known as at Corney and Barrow, is a tiny 7-hectare plot, but which is about 17 acres. So this is based in Saint-Sulpice-de-Fanéron in Bordeaux, and the soils are mostly gravel with a little bit of sand. And the family, who have owned the estate for about 150 years, they used to sell their grapes. And in 1995, they decided to start making their own wines. So after considerable investment in the winemaking equipment, they began and have now created a really delicious wine. So the vines are about 35 to 45 years old, so pretty old. And the blend of this wine is 70% Merlot and 30% Cabernet Franc. So the Merlot in this, and the Merlot dominant blend, really allows for this to be a really smooth wine. It is, as you'll taste, it just slips right down. It's very soft, very smooth. And then the Cabernet Franc just gives a little bit of structure and a little bit of kind of body to the wine, which is obviously what you're looking for in a red wine. And 60% of this is matured in oak barrels, and then 40% in stainless steel. So the oak is adding the kind of spiciness that you would expect, and the stainless steel really allows for there to be a nice kind of fresh kind of red and black fruit notes to really come through. So 2016, the vintage started very cool and damp. And I think there was quite a bit of worry around having some bad frost, but luckily that did not happen. And then a warm summer followed. So it's a really lovely balanced wine, kind of really panned out okay. And so this, as you will see, has a really huge, deep colour. So on the nose, it's got a really kind of dark, quite pungent perfume of red and black fruits. So blackcurrant, blackberry, a bit of cherry, some plum, and a little bit of spiciness. And if you're going to have a taste, probably now's the time. But yeah, so it's really very sweetly intense, the palate. It's very smooth, and that's thanks to the Merlot dominant blend. And then the Cabernet Franc is kind of giving a little bit of tannin. As you'll taste, there's not a huge amount there, which is great. That makes this both a good food wine, but also something that you probably, I mean, you could probably just about get away with nibbles with it. So it's got a lovely, integrated tannins and a lovely long kind of nice finish. It's very smooth. I'm sure you'll agree. Probably very easy to drink. So I mean, this is a really perfect Christmas Day wine. It's going to go with turkey. It's be great with goose, game, or if you're not into turkey at all for Christmas, then roast beef. This would obviously be perfect with. And I think Saint-Emilion is a Bordeaux red that appeals to lots of palates. I think there are some red Bordeaux that can be very tannic, or kind of quite kind of savoury in flavour, but this is really nice and fruity. And because it's 2016, it's got a little bit of bottle age, which just kind of gives a bit more intensity and like kind of depth of flavour, but at the same time, it's not too old that you're losing any fruit. So it's great. I mean, this makes me feel very Christmassy. Every year on Christmas Eve, I have a family friends drinks party, and my girlfriends and I go off to the nearest fireplace and have a bottle of this with the cheese board at hand. And it's great. I mean, this would also work very well with cheeses. Something like Roquefort would be delicious with this. But yeah, I mean, Will, I'm sure you love this as much as I do.
I've had Barry White before. I know
my
at home, I think.
Oh, Barry.
The final wine is a Sauterne, which hopefully you've all had the pleasure of trying. I love Sauterne. And usually at a Christmas tasting, you might want to show port, or something like more classical, which you'd associate with Christmas, especially in the UK. But I'm a massive Francophile with my wine choices, and Sauterne for me is the most delicious dessert wine you can have. It's not necessarily even a dessert wine, the best sweet wine. I love it.
That's great.
Firstly, the color is awesome. It's like just this beautiful golden sort of honey nectar color. And secondly, it probably comes from, in my opinion, the most interesting wine region on the planet, or the most, reliable wine region on the planet, which is Bordeaux. For those that don't know, Sauternes is it would be considered on the left bank of Bordeaux, but it's sort of in between, or on two rivers, the Garonne and the Ciron. And it's very important that it's on these rivers, because at night, in the evening, they get this humidity. And so it's actually, if you don't know how Sauternes made it, it might put you off a little bit how it is made, but there's this humidity which forms, which makes the wines grow in a more humid climate. This rot, called noble rot, in the right conditions will be able to grow on the grapes, which is Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. And the rot, which looks disgusting, if you were looking at it, but somehow manages to produce this deliciously sweet, golden, syrupy wine, because it concentrates all the sugars and the acids into the grapes. So when they come to harvest them, they're picking these, like, it's almost like raisined, moldy little grapes. They put them in the barrels, and then they, go through the typical winemaking process. And what you're left with is this, like, beautiful golden, honey nectar, like, it's basically just drinking. If you've got a sweet tooth like me, it is just like everything you want to drink at the end of a meal. The one we've got it's our own label, and we buy it in from Maison Sichel, who are an old negociant house, who have been around for about 125 years, and they do a lot of our sort of own label Bordeaux wines. It's 70% Sauvignon Blanc, 30% Semillon. The estate it actually comes from, because a negociant house wouldn't produce the wine itself, is called Domaine de Fargue, which are a pretty renowned Sauternes producer. And I would have this with my, like, Christmas pudding, trifle, if you're any trifle fans out there, or if you're having like custard tarts or blue cheese, it works really well with. The French, because they don't really care about cholesterol and that sort of stuff, would have this really sweet wine with foie gras, and sort of rich pate starters like that, which would be delicious but not particularly good for you. But yeah, so it's a lovely wine. It's also less alcoholic than port, so if you're concerned about falling asleep too quickly after Christmas dinner, this is a better option. It's generally just lovely. I love this wine, and it's only £14.25 a bottle, so it's really good value for money, and super complex. You get lots of acidity, lots of sweetness, and the question now, I can see amazing Sauternes temperature. I would serve this really cold. This is sort of just put it in the fridge and then take it out and drink it like straight out the fridge. It's best really chilled. When it gets warm, it can get a bit chlorine and sort of get too sweet, and then it almost can leave a sort of bitter taste. It just gets a bit weird. So make sure you keep it really, really cold when you're drinking it. But yeah, I love it. I'm going to drink the rest of this later. Hopefully I got some nice, like, tart or something to have it with. I don't know.